Okay, ladies and gentlemen, when I got done restoring the 1961 Shopsmith Mark V Goldie, I said I'd put together a summary video at the end of it to tell you a little bit about what I learned and everything. And it's been pointed out to me by some viewers, or at least one viewer, that I never did that. So here we go. All right, here it is in all its glory. As you can see, I built a nice storage unit for underneath it. On the end here, I've got a joiner, 4-inch joiner, Shopsmith, that I also restored and have used. Right now, I don't have anything on here because I had a speed increaser on there that I used to do some routing, which here's a sample of that, where I went ahead and did a 1/4-inch route for, that'll be for the bottom of a drawer. This is another project that I need to complete that I'm going to use to store the joiner. I also restored a jigsaw you see there. Okay, I have a planer down there, and then buried over here I have the drawing a blank on it. Underneath here I've got a belt sander stored under there. And then I've got my various chucks and so on and so forth stored under here. This was a fun project that I completely made on this Shopsmith. As far as what I learned on it, if you remember in the videos, down here, when I tried to separate these, I went and cut those because I didn't know how to get this roll pin out of here. Don't make my mistake. All you have to do is drive that roll pin, and there's actually a cavity back here that roll pin will go into and then fall down on the floor. So I made a little bit of extra work for myself doing that, plus I had to go and buy the new piece of rod. But that's the first thing I learned. The way tubes down here, it did work out pretty good for me. You know, I soaked them in the Rust 911. I made those tubes up and filled it up with Rust 911. That did real good. And then I made that, somebody called it a mini lathe, where I 3D printed the ends for it, put some roller skate bearings on it, went out and got some expansion plugs with the bolts on them, and I use that as like a mini lathe. And then I've got what really worked the best on that is I've got a Contour, one of the Eastwood Contour SCTs, and I just ran that down there, took as much of the rust off and polished them up as good as I could. On the Goldie, on these, I ended up using Rust-Oleum hammered silver, and then I used the hammered gold here and the hammered bronze, and those turned out really good and have been working well. I did not go with the the bigger casters. I bought those off of eBay, and they work really good. Let me see, what else did I learn on it? If I had to do it over again, if you look through those videos, I spent a long time hand polishing a lot of this. one thing I did learn is I could take, you know, I've got a car polishing uh, um, machine, not a machine, but, you know, buffer, excuse me, buffer. And next time I do one of these, I'm just going to use one of those on it and then finish it up by hand with uh, either the either a combination of the Brasso and the Mother's Mag polish. Um, in here, I did do the double bearing quill upgrade, and I put the 1 1/8 horsepower motor in it. Works really good. The only problem I've had is when I hooked up the speed increaser, I did not have the high speed adjustment correct on here, and it ate up the drive belt. Did it to me twice. Finally figured that out. Well, it was a combination of that, and when I put the bottom sheave on after rebuilding, putting the new bearings in the motor here, I didn't quite get that tight enough, and it started to work itself loose. And then what happened on it is it was going to where the sheaves were opening or closing too much, and it ate up that. I think they were opening too much, so when it got down to the bottom of the sheave, it ate up those belts. Once I got that all uh, adjusted, it worked pretty good. Although when you get clear up here, you're supposed to run. When you're running that speed increaser, you're supposed to run on setting V here. It tends to want to continue to go clear up to where it hits the fast stop. So my workaround on that is I just take a piece of tape, and once I get it up to V, I put a piece of tape over here so it doesn't work itself all the way up. And most of the time that's not a problem because I'm usually never going up in this speed range. In fact, there's some people that say you really shouldn't do that. The only reason I do have the speed increaser, like I said, I did this routing on here, and the bits I have are 1/2 inch shank bits, and this is all I've got to run the 1/2 inch shank bits in. Otherwise, I'd probably just use one of my other routers. I've got some old Rockwell routers, but they're only 1/4 inch shank. Here you can see I've also got a speed reducer. And my next thing I got to do on this is I've got the biscuit joiner, so I'm going to use the biscuit joiner on that. Here's the fence that I redid. I've got this all cleaned up. I also got a 7.5 inch. I'm not sure what I did with it. 7.5 inch table that are used on this. If you notice right there, underneath that cover and the junk, is a SawStop 3 horsepower PCS table saw that I've had for a long time. So here's the deal. The 500's, you know, a fine table saw, but what I mainly am using now, when I'm using something to cut table saw cuts, I use my SawStop just because I got the bigger table, better fence. If you are going to use your Shopsmith for a table saw, I would definitely suggest that you get one that's you know, got like the 510 table on it. That's such a better table than the 500 table. However, I do use this still for my Dado cuts because it's so much easier for me to adjust the, oh, there's the 7.5 inch table there. It is so much easier to make, you know, take it off and make my adjustments on the Dado cuts. So that's what I use for the saw table. I've used this as the lathe a couple times. Like I said, I've used the belt sander quite extensively. I've used the 4-inch joiner. I have not gotten the plane set up yet. I haven't had to use that. It's been like, I don't know, 9 months or a year since I finished this up. Now, you will notice, here's one thing I will tell you about this. These things are very addictive. You'll notice behind, here's another I think it was a 1984 500 that I purchased. I haven't had to do a whole lot to this. I will eventually, you notice down here on the legs, it's got a little bit of surface rust on there, so I'll eventually do that. I have mainly, I added this onto this one's fence because I was using it to drill a whole bunch of holes in a project, and I'll show you that in a minute. And this worked out great, and I was able to hang my dust collector here. And so mainly I've been using that for the drill press, and if you notice, the way tubes and everything are in pretty good shape. I have not used the jigsaw yet. Like I said, I rebuilt that. I color matched the color and everything. I'm going to be using that here shortly because I have this handle for a dovetail saw that I need to cut out and make. So I'll use that on that. Let me show you a couple other things, and then we're in this. Out here, and it's covered up with some scrap. This is one of the things I made. This is Nick Engler's assembly table. All these holes in this were drilled using the drill press attachment on the 1984 500. I made both this one, and then I made a smaller one. Now, coming up shortly, and I'll have to crawl through the wood scraps. Well, I shouldn't say shortly. Sometime next year, I bought a 1954 Greenie because I just love the Greenies. I don't know why. Well, I love, and so I will do a series on restoring this Greenie, just like I did the Goldie. It came with a jigsaw and it came with the 4-inch joiner. So I'll completely go through and do those. I will record when I do the restoration on the jigsaw, and I'll record when I do the restoration on the 4-inch joiner. So, if you guys have any other questions, go ahead and clack them down in the comments. I don't have it plugged in. Let me plug it in for you real quick. I can plug this in over here. Right there is the other 4-inch joiner from the Greenie. Okay, so you can hear how this thing runs. There you go. I think it's an excellent runner right now, as long as I don't run it too fast and burn up the belts. And again, like I said, if you have any questions, be on the lookout. Probably next spring or tear into that Greenie and get it restored. I know right now that Shopsmith has discontinued operations, and they may or may not get sold and resurrected. But I have to say, all the bearings and belts and everything for this are easily obtainable new, and there's a lot of part used parts on eBay, and I bought a lot of the parts for this from eBay. I did buy some from Shopsmith, and that was nice. But I'm sure if you don't have one and you buy one, you're going to be able to get it restored. Um, they're a great product. I really am disappointed that they had to cease operations, and I'm very hopeful that they're um, get back into operating shape. So, like I said, wait till next spring. I'll work on the Greenie. In the meantime, I'm spending a lot of time on uh, my 1959 Clark Clipper forklift restoration that I've been working on for 3 years. And it's coming along. I hope to have that done by spring, and then I've got a few other things I want to work on, but I will slip in the Greenie in between those. So thanks again for watching. Please like and subscribe and share this video. Thanks.